myself driving along a desolate road that seemed to lead to nowhere. My GPS had inexplicably stopped working, and I was relying solely on my headlights to guide me through the pitch black darkness. Silence was eerie, broken only by the sound of my tires against the cracked pavement. I had heard rumors about this road, stories whispered among locals about an old, abandoned asylum that was hidden deep within the nearby woods. They said that the spirits of the patients who had suffered there still roamed the area, seeking vengeance on anyone who dared to venture too close. But I dismissed these tales as superstition, thinking they were just meant to scare curious travelers. As I continued down the road, the atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. The air seemed to thicken, and I felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over me. Suddenly, my headlights flickered, and the engine began to sputter. Panic gripped me as the car shuddered to a halt. I attempted to restart the engine, but it was as if the car had succumbed to the eerie aura that surrounded us. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized I was completely stranded, with no cell phone signal and no way to call for help. The oppressive silence was now accompanied by the sensation of being watched. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a dim light in the distance. It was moving slowly, bobbing up and down as it drew nearer. I strained my eyes to see what it was, and my blood ran cold when I realized it was a lantern held by a figure cloaked in tattered, blood-stained garments. The figure moved closer, and I could now make out a grotesque, twisted face beneath the hood. Fear paralyzed me as the figure approached my car. It raised a skeletal hand and pointed a bony finger toward the woods, where the asylum was said to lie hidden. Its voice, barely more than a whisper, filled the car as it said, "They suffer still, and so shall you." Before I could react, the figure vanished into thin air, leaving me alone in the darkness once more. With trembling hands, I managed to start the car, and I sped away from that forsaken road, haunted by the encounter. I never learned the truth about the abandoned asylum, but I knew one thing for certain. I had encountered something otherworldly that night, something that defied all rational explanation. Stay tuned for the remaining 4 true driving horror stories that you requested, which I'll be happy to write for you in the coming days. I sped away from that forsaken road, haunted by the encounter, my heart still racing and my mind filled with questions about the inexplicable and otherworldly events of that night. As I drove through the winding country roads that eventually led me back to civilization, I couldn't help but wonder about the figure in the tattered garments and the asylum hidden in the woods. Following days were filled with a sense of unease that lingered like a dark cloud over my thoughts. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled upon something beyond human understanding. Late at night, when the world around me was silent, I would often find myself deep in thought, trying to make sense of what I had witnessed. Desperate for answers, I decided to dig into the local history and legends surrounding the abandoned asylum. It didn't take long to uncover chilling stories about the asylum's dark past, a place where patients had endured unimaginable suffering and abuse. Rumors spoke of a fire that had consumed the building decades ago, claiming the lives of many trapped inside. I couldn't help but connect the dots, wondering if the tormented souls of the asylum's past had somehow crossed over into our world, seeking retribution for the horrors they had endured. It was a terrifying thought, but it was the only explanation that seemed to fit the eerie encounter on that desolate road. Despite my fear, curiosity got the better of me, and I returned to the area, this time in daylight. I ventured into the woods, guided by an irresistible urge to confront the truth. What I discovered there sent shivers down my spine. A charred, crumbling structure that had once been the asylum. It stood as a haunting reminder of the suffering that had taken place within its walls. As I explored the remains, I couldn't escape the feeling of being watched once more. A cold breeze rustled through the trees, and I heard faint, mournful whispers on the wind. The spirits of the past seemed to surround me, their presence impossible to deny. I left that place, vowing never to return, but the memory of that night and the haunted asylum would forever be etched in my mind. It was a chilling reminder that there are forces in this world beyond our comprehension, and some mysteries are best left unsolved.